Hi, welcome to lecture 11 in TEFL course. It is about teaching receptive skills. As you know, reading and listening are the receptive language skills. All students should master these skills. Why? Because receptive skills are the source of information. Listening and reading are the source of information. Without the ability to read, we wouldn't know how to use the information that presented in different kinds of written resources. The same for listening. Without the ability of listening, our ability to listen, we haven't been gained. It's impossible to gain information. So by listening and reading, you expose yourself to new things, new information, new ways to solve problems, explore things. So reading skills help you to expand your mind, know a lot about past, present, and predict the future. So you have master receptive skills, and you as a TEFL teacher has to know how to help your students master receptive skills. Lecture topics. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about different points related to receptive skills. The first one, reasons for teaching reading and listening. Why do we need to teach reading and listening for school students? And reasons for listening and reading. We have different reasons for reading and different reasons for listening. According to our reasons, we use different strategies during reading and listening. There are two different strategies we can use in reading and listening, top down and bottom up, and we are going to talk about these two terms. Different reading and listening skills strategies. So we have to know as a TEFL teacher how to develop these strategies in reading and listening lessons, different reading and listening skills, and by the end of this lecture, we are going to talk about problems and solutions for these problems. During listening to this lecture, you have to be able to answer these questions. What are the reasons for teaching receptive skills in schools? What are the common reasons for reading and listening? What's the difference between top down and bottom up? Why do you need to know the different reading and listening skills or strategies? What are the common problems of receptive skills among the students? How can you deal with these problems? Reasons for teaching reading and listening. As we mentioned above, the receptive skills are those skills where meaning is extracted from the spoken or written discourse or written texts. So the teacher should help students to develop their skills to understand, interpret spoken and written texts. But how? By training students to use the reading and listening strategies that enable them to deal with any type of text. What are these strategies? We are to know what are these strategies and how to use them in different stages, in different times of or in different times of reading. Also, we have to teach reading and listening because students we have to train our students to make use of important cognitive processing while listening or reading. How? By using top down and bottom up. And we are going to talk about these two strategies and two ways of dealing with written and spoken text in order to get the general idea of the text, move toward getting information and more detailed information. Reasons for reading and listening. Yeah, we have different reasons for reading and listening, and we used to read or listen daily in different times of the day. For example, we read or listen in order to increase vocabulary by reading any text. Uh, also, we read in order to increase writing skills, expand our knowledge, entertainment, gain information, reading for pleasure, pastime, to relax ourselves. So there are different reasons for reading and listening. Here we have to ask ourselves a question. Do you think the reasons for reading or listening affect the ways we read or listen? In other words, how does the purpose of the text influence the way it is read or listen? We read some text very closely to get a detailed understanding. For example, instructions to take a medicine, or some we just skim for the general idea, like reading a story, reading a Facebook post, or whatever. We may scan a text for specific details, like TV guide, like a lesson in a reading book or English for Palestine text box. So we should give students a chance to listen or read different text types and give them opportunities to develop a range of reading and listening strategies: skimming, scanning, reading for detailed understanding, and so on. Top down and bottom up. Top down and bottom up are strategies to deal with listening and reading texts. So, top down approach or processing, to read or to listen, it means taking prior knowledge, previous ideas into account when encountering a reading or a listening text. How? By activating schemata related to a particular topic, by revising old words, by reviewing old information which are related to the text. Students focus more on general idea of the text rather than on individual words. There are different activities the teacher can use in top-down approach, such as visual activities like using pictures or images or videos. Ask students to predict the general idea or the main idea of the text and skim the text by listening or reading. Why? To check their prediction. So, top-down processing, the reader or listener gets a general view of the reading or listening passage by absorbing the overall picture, the general idea, skimming the text quickly in order to get the general idea of the text. This helps the reader or the listener schemata allow them to have appropriate expectations of what they are going to come across. So, in top down, the reader or the student uses his or her background or previous knowledge to make prediction and then search the text in order to confirm or to reject. So confirm or reject how? By skimming the text. The students or the reader or the listener begins with the meaning of the general idea, then move down to words, so specific things in the text. But what about bottom up? Bottom up processing, students work on the incoming message by scanning to identify items, to identify specific things, using graphics to identify the information, focus on the words, using grammatical cues to organize the input ideas in both sentences. So by bottom up processing, the reader or listener focuses on individual words and the phrases and achieves understanding by scanning the text, scanning to get details in order to build the whole idea, in order to build the whole message of the text. So as you can see in this picture, bottom-up processing from small or subordinate unit or units to a large or more important unit. Bottom-up is used for processing separate letters, word, phrases, while top-down for comprehension. Different reading and listening skills and strategies. We have 6 reading and listening strategies. We as TEFL teachers have to train our students to develop these skills and strategies during reading and listening lessons. The first one, identifying the topic, pick up the topic. I help students to reach the topic of the reading and listening text by giving them different activities, by activating prior knowledge, by revising related words, predicting and guess in order to try to understand and what is being written or talked about. So you have to encourage students to predict the general idea, predict the topic. How? By giving them a suitable activity in a pre-reading stage. Before you ask your students to read, you have to encourage them to predict the general idea of the text in order to get their interest about the text, in order to help them to focus during the reading stage, in order to check their prediction, to reject or confirm the prediction. Reading and listening for general understanding comprehension. So as the last activity in the pre-stage, you have to ask your students to predict the general idea, to predict the topic. So in during stage, you have to ask students to read by giving them different activities. The first activity in the during stage should focuses on giving students a chance to confirm or reject their prediction. How? By using skimming. So they have to get the general idea without stopping for every word, for analyzing everything that the writer or the reader the speaker includes in the text. In other words, it means running your eyes over a text to get a quick idea of the gist or a text. 4. Reading and listening for specific information. So, during reading, students should read in order to get specific information. How? By giving them comprehension questions and ask them to read in order to answer these questions. We may listen to the news only concentrating when a particular item that interests us comes up. We may quickly look through a film review find and or a review to find the name of director or the star. In both cases, we almost ignore all the other information until we come to the specific item we are looking for. So, here in this stage, during reading stage, you have to give students questions to look for specific information. So they have used scanning in order to find specific information and answer comprehension questions. But reading and listening for detailed information, in this time, students read in order to understand everything. They have to read in detail, listen and concentrate in order to get detailed information. And this is the third time for reading, so the text become or reading or listening, so the text becomes more easy for them to deal with. They become the text becomes familiar for them, so they can read the text in order to get detailed information in a specific time. The last listening skill, interpreting the text, and this skill can be achieved in post-reading stage. After you asking students to read the text, get the general idea of the text, specific information and detailed information, you can ask your students to use new language in real life situations. You can ask your students to summarize the text, give their opinion about the text, discuss the text, retell the text again. Why? Because reader and listeners are able to see beyond the literal meaning of words in a passage using a variety of clues or to understand what the writer or speaker is implying or suggesting. You as TEFL teachers have to prepare suitable activities for post stage, for post reading or listening stage in order to help your students to use a new language in real life situations. As a last point in this lecture, problems and solutions. We have different problems related to listening and reading texts. Language, topic and genre, comprehension tasks, negative expectations. These are the common problems, and we have different solutions to deal with these problems. According to the language, you have to reteach difficult words, revising old words, check students' schemata, and activate their prior knowledge about the text. Extensive listening and reading. How? By selecting and preparing extra reading and listening materials to develop students' listening and reading skills. Authenticity. You have to use and select appropriate text for students' environment. Topic and genre. Choose the right topic. So you have to select and choose interesting topics for students. Create interest. How? By prepare suitable activities, giving students chance to predict the general idea of the text by using suitable aids, suitable instruments in order to help students to pay attention to the text, to feel interest during reading and listening lessons. Activating schemata. Ask students questions about their previous ideas about the text. Vary topics. So you have to use different kinds of text in order to meet individual differences among students, in order to meet their interest, in order to get their interest during the listening and reading text. Comprehension tasks. You have to prepare different tasks for each stage of reading and listening framework lessons. Pre-reading, during reading, or post-reading. During pre-listening, during listening, and post-listening stages. So you have to prepare different kinds of activities, and you have all these activities should include a kind, appropriate level of a challenge for students. Negative expectations. So you have to deal with this point by making listening and reading text more easy for students, more interesting for them. How? By dealing with all the previous mentioned problems. First, you have to pre-teach vocabulary. You have to choose a right topic. You have to help students to understand the text. You have to prepare different kinds of activities. By doing all these things, you can change the negative attitudes toward reading and listening text and make students feel relaxed during reading and listening text instead of feeling frustrating and hate reading and listening text. Thank you for listening, and we are going to continue talking about listening and reading in different lectures. Thank you.